The only thing stopping Bart from blowing up the entire planet is the thought of being held accountable for his actions. There are so many crazy things Bart would do if he knew he could get away with all of it. Thankfully, no matter what life-threatening situation Bart puts himself through, there will always be someone to reprimand the boy. But what if Bart got hold of a watch that could stop time? What manner of impending doom will Bart bring to the people of Springfield? Such a scenario is best left to the imagination.
Oh, that keeps happening.
Another Halloween has come and gone, and now Lisa and Bart go over their loot for the night. Of course, Bart is disappointed that his Halloween candy is actually not candy at all. It's just random junk that people wanted to get rid of. Meanwhile, Lisa got all the good stuff. It doesn't take long for the two siblings to start fighting, and in the chaos, they end up stabbing Homer. This time the kids have gone too far, and Homer decides to teach them a lesson by threatening to burn everyone. Even though Homer misses his target, Marge steps in and puts a stop to Homer's psychopathic tendency by shooting him with a shotgun. Just another casual Halloween night at the Simpsons house. Later on, the peaceful family home gets an unexpected visitor. The Grim Reaper has arrived to reap the soul of Bart Simpson, instead of freely offering their nuisance of a son to death himself. Marge and Homer actually help Bart escape the clutches of death. An entire cartoonish chase ensues within the family home, as the Grim Reaper desperately tries to reap Bart's soul. After a long and embarrassing chase, the Grim Reaper has had enough, and he manages to trap Bart. The boy can only plead for his life as death inches closer, but Homer uses a bowling ball to whack the Grim Reaper and knock him out. Death actually ends up dying from this minor assault, and now Homer has created a world in which there is no death. In a world where the Grim Reaper is not doing his job, there can only be more trouble and awkward situations.
I knew this would take so long, I'd have put on a TV.
Back at home, Homer laments the loss of death. He truly feels bad for what he has done, but now there is nothing more to do, and Homer must dispose of the Grim Reaper's body. He unceremoniously puts the bones in a garbage can, but leaves the Grim Reaper's robe. This is probably the only piece of clothing that will ever fit Homer. So he decides to put the robe on, and before you know it, Homer has now turned into the new Grim Reaper.
My hand!
Homer did not sign up for being the new Grim Reaper. This is too much responsibility for him, but Homer has no choice but to carry out his grim suits. The new Grim Reaper goes around Springfield, helping people pass on from the mortal plane. Lisa even brings her father to school for career day. Being the Grim Reaper really isn't all that bad. Homer can even scare people into giving him whatever he wants. Consequences be damned.
Dad, were all those people on the list?
Homer has settled into his routine as the Grim Reaper quite well, but one day he is tasked with killing Marge. Since Homer has no choice, he goes through with the grisly deed and brings Marge's body on top of a mountain. Homer begs God to take away this ghastly vocation, and now Homer is no longer the Grim Reaper. As God takes away Marge's body, he realizes that Homer ended up killing Patty instead of Marge. Before Homer can be held accountable for this trickery, he runs away on a dirt bike. Now things are back to normal, and no one truly important has died, except for the hundreds of people Homer killed for fun.
I'm gonna not kill you every week.
Homer's adventures as the Grim Reaper come to an end, but Lisa's adventure is just beginning. Lisa has just learned that Professor Frink has won a Nobel Peace Prize. The mad scientist has finally accomplished something for his useless invention. When Lisa shares this news with Frink, the nerd is happy, but also remorseful. Apparently, Frink's father, Jonathan, was a manly adventurer who liked to take a more hands-on approach with scientific discovery. Since Frink has always been a cowardly shut-in, his father would look down on him. Lisa did not sign up to listen to Frink's sap story, but she must sit through his painful life story. Frink informs Lisa that the last time he saw his father, the man was going on an oceanographic expedition, but he ended up dying after getting bitten by a shark. And this entire time, the freak Frink has kept his father's body in a freezer in order to bring him back to life.
Wow! Did a shark do that?
Frink believes that now is the perfect time to reanimate his father. After tinkering away in his lab like Dr. Frankenstein, Frink manages to bring his father back, but the man clearly hates Frink a lot. Jonathan is not happy that Frink could only manage to replace the man's organs with metallic parts. He wants a real spleen and real organs. Jonathan threatens to get himself a real body and then promises to teach Frink a lesson. Jonathan goes to the park where he meets his first victim. Ned Flanders has no idea that some freak is going to rip out his organs and leave him to die.
Baby.
Jonathan then continues to attack people around the city and takes whatever he likes about them. In no time, Jonathan is just a grotesque mismatch of different body parts. Lisa stops Frink's father and makes him feel bad about letting down Frink. She tells the man that Frink is going to be receiving the Nobel Prize and Jonathan should really be there. The day of the award ceremony finally arrives and Frink accepts his Nobel Prize. But Jonathan interrupts the program and he apologizes to Frink in front of the audience and promises to be a better dad. But since Jonathan is still technically a walking corpse, he can't help but notice how wonderful the brains of the audience members are. It doesn't take long for the man to take away people's brains and put them in his own head for maximum brain power.
Every brain unlocks more secrets of the universe.
The award ceremony turns into a cheap zombie movie, and Marge tells Frink that he must stop his father. After doing some careful calculations, Frink hits his father in the nuts and finally brings his reign of terror to an end. After the disastrous ceremony comes to an end, Lisa tries to comfort Frink, but the mad scientist has preserved his father's soul, and it's like the man has never left. Now Lisa's story of horrors has come to an end. Bart can take center stage. One day, while cleaning up the attic, Marge finds a bunch of old comic books which she gives to Bart and Milhouse. As the boys browse around, they find an ad for a stopwatch that can stop time itself. Of course, Bart doesn't waste a breath and orders this contraption. The watch arrives in time, and Bart's shenanigans immediately ensue.
That's a filthy habit.
Bart now has the perfect device which can help him get away with the best of pranks. He shares this secret with Milhouse, and together they stop the entire town of Springfield. Of course, Bart's next target is Principal Skinner, and during a particularly boring morning assembly, Bart stops time and pulls down Skinner's pants. The entire school erupts in laughter when Bart unfreezes time, and Skinner is left with another embarrassing memory for his suicide note. Bart then pranks his father and stops Homer from eating all of the donuts at work. He then proceeds to remove his father's clothes and even brings in Nelson to double the humiliation. The mayor of Springfield has a serious town meeting about this ongoing crisis. Bart doesn't even spare the man while he is complaining about all the pranks. The mayor knew that the perpetrators would be at the meeting, so he covered the floor with ultraviolet powder, and once the lights are off, the trace leads back to Bart and Milhouse. A witch hunt of epic proportions starts to chase down the two boys. The people of the town are angry, and this time, Bart will have to face consequences for his actions. However, the time-stopping stopwatch is an incredible device, and Bart alters space-time once more to save his own ass. Amidst this chaos, Bart and Milhouse realize that they broke the watch, and now things will be stuck in a frozen state forever. Instead of being sad, Bart believes this is the perfect opportunity to do whatever the hell he wants. Even though Bart has everything that he ever wanted, the world of endless ice cream and useless gadgets is actually pretty hollow, and Bart realizes that he misses his mum. Instead of continuing to live in a state of perpetual bliss, Bart and Milhouse decide to fix up the watch, but it literally takes their combined brain cells 15 whole years to fix the damned thing. Bart now looks much older, and Milhouse has already turned bald, but time must continue forward. Before unfreezing everybody, Bart places Ralph as a scapegoat for the angry mob, and as soon as Bart uses the stopwatch to make time flow again, the mob falls upon Ralph and beats the shit out of him.
To repeat what I said a moment ago, you are soft.
Bart and Milhouse get away scotch-free for their pranking, and Bart returns back to his bedroom where he continues to pretend to be a 10-year-old boy in a 25-year-old body. Marge and Homer also decide to ignore why Bart looks so much older, but Lisa already knows that he has a time-stopping device, and now it's her turn to play with the fabric of reality.